Born some 124 years ago on the cusp of the 20th century, showman, self-publicist, control freak, perfectionist, a mass of contradictions, an English American, but also one of the most influential directors in the history of cinema. His work has appealed to mass audiences and film historians alike. Today's history maker is Alfred Hitchcock, who, in a career spanning 6 decades, directed over 50 feature films, many of which are still widely watched and studied today. His work has become a source of reference for countless filmmakers everywhere. Born in Leytonstone, North East London, the youngest of 3 children, growing up he was an isolated, tubby child with few school friends. Educated at various Catholic schools in London, his own family's religious background may have been to some extent responsible for the Catholic themes of his films, while his upbringing characterised by an atmosphere of discipline may also have inspired some of his later work. The stories of Edgar Allan Poe intrigued him from an early age, and he was interested in art and art history. The young Hitchcock was a fan of American films, especially those of D.W. Griffith and Buster Keaton. Upon hearing that an American motion picture distribution company, the famous players Lasky, were opening a film studio in London, Hitchcock approached them with a portfolio of his artistic work. In 1920, he was appointed to design and illustrate silent movie titles, and he soon made himself indispensable at the Islington Studios. In 1924, the studio was taken over by Gaumont Pictures, but Hitchcock's talent was soon recognised by the head of Gainsborough at Islington, Michael Balkin. Balkin offered Hitchcock the chance to direct his first feature film, The Pleasure Garden. By this time, an important event had taken place in Hitchcock's life. He had met the film editor Alma Reville, who he would marry in 1926. Alma was to remain an important collaborator and advisor throughout Hitchcock's career. Not long after meeting Alma, Hitchcock spent time in Germany in the mid-1920s, his directorial debut being the British-German silent film The Pleasure Garden. His first successful film was The Lodger, a story of the London fog, and it helped shape the thriller genre. His early work was influenced by German Expressionism, Hollywood pace, Soviet montage, and the dream landscapes of surrealism. He made the first British sound film called Blackmail, which was a critical and commercial success. This was also the film in which Hitchcock first made what was to become his trademark, a cameo appearance. This was an early indication of a lifelong passion for self-publicity. He followed it up with a string of well-received films, including The Man Who Knew Too Much, The 39 Steps, Secret Agent, Sabotage, Young and Innocent, and The Lady Vanishes. Hitchcock's early work is characterised by its suspenseful plots, complex characters, and innovative use of camera work and editing. He often used visual motifs such as the staircase, the eye, and the bomb to create a sense of unease and foreboding. These films established Hitchcock as one of the leading directors of his time and attracted the attention of Hollywood. In 1937, Hitchcock duly set sail for America, where he met for the first time film producer David O. Selznick, an important figure in his early Hollywood career. he was enchanted by America and would make it his base permanently in 1939. Hitchcock became an American citizen in 1955. In Hollywood, he agreed to work for Selznick, hoping that at a smaller studio he would be a favoured director, allowed to get on with his own projects uninterruptedly. His first picture was Rebecca, a critical success and his only film to be awarded an Oscar for Best Picture. Rebecca is based on a Daphne du Maurier novel. Its atmosphere of suspense and entrapment allowed Hitchcock to explore the familiar psychological territory of the pale and vulnerable Gothic heroine searching for authenticity in a labyrinth of social pressure and expectation. However, once Hitchcock started work on Rebecca, he began to resent the interference of Selznick. Disagreements between them encouraged Selznick to loan Hitchcock out to other studios. This included making the film Suspicion in 1941. The latter marked the first of 4 appearances in a Hitchcock film by Cary Grant, who, along with James Stewart, who also appeared 4 times, played some of the most complex and significant of the male characters in Hitchcock's repertoire of screen heroes. Once his contract with Selznick ended, Hitchcock teamed up with Sidney Bernstein to launch an independent company, Transatlantic Pictures, but fairly quickly returned to studio work at a range of studios throughout his career. He worked steadily towards gaining control over his productions, skillfully manoeuvring himself within the changing studio system to gain true independence. His independence was truly established after the enormous commercial and critical success of Psycho in 1960. This was made on a budget of $800,000, but which grossed $42 million with only 6 months of its release. Strangers on a Train in 1951, a psychological thriller, is one of Hitchcock's greatest achievements and focuses on questions of guilt and shared responsibility. The divisions and conflicts of human desire are here split and projected onto 2 characters. But what initially seems like a simple contrast between a clean-cut all-American hero and the decadent Oedipal villain becomes a complex pattern of shared instincts and responsibilities. During the 1950s, Hitchcock created a series of acclaimed films at Paramount Studios, including Rear Window, To Catch a Thief, In Trouble with Harry, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Vertigo, North by Northwest, and Psycho. Hitchcock began to prepare North by Northwest 1959, a comedy thriller. This remains one of Hitchcock's most stylish films, full of witty dialogue and narrative pace. In its settings, the UN Building, Plaza Hotel, Grand Central Station, all in New York, and Mount Rushmore, it celebrates some of the visual splendours of urban and rural America. However, it is Psycho that remains one of Hitchcock's most disturbing and perhaps most widely discussed films. At first, a critical failure, it was an immediate commercial success. The publicity surrounding the film, Hitchcock insisted that no one be allowed into the cinema after the film started, perhaps in no small measure added to its mystery. His later films included The Birds, 1963, and Marnie, with the latter revealing his complex relationship with actress Tippi Hedren. His final films varied in quality, with Frenzy the only one being more in line with his earlier achievements. In the 1950s, Hitchcock created a TV series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and the series lasted until 1964. With his portly shape and chubby face, Hitchcock became the only director in the history of the cinema to be instantly recognisable to the general public. Alfred Hitchcock's fascination with America is evident in his films, but he never shook off his British roots. He found inspiration in various American aspects, such as small-town charm in A Shadow of a Doubt, political dynamics in Strangers on a Train, historical national landmarks in Saboteur and North by Northwest. Even American slang intrigued him, while he often relied on iconic American stars like James Stewart and Grace Kelly. He also frequently used British actors. Hitchcock's films often contrasted America and Britain, with British settings and actors like Cary Grant highlighting this dynamic. The interplay between British and American influences is particularly noticeable in a film like Marnie, where British actors like Sean Connery contribute to the cultural tension. In Frenzy, Hitchcock's penultimate film, he offered a brutal critique of English culture, depicting London as a city of rottenness, decay, and brutality. The film's use of the British-English archaism necktie further underlined the tension between the two cultures and can be seen as a minor linguistic example of the triumph of America over England. Many commentators have remarked guilt is the Catholic theme to which Hitchcock returns with greatest regularity. Films often use religious motifs and concepts to explore themes of guilt, innocence, and redemption. He often uses the church as a symbol of the alienating culture that his characters inhabit. The blurred boundaries between guilt and innocence provide some of the most striking moments in films, such as The Wrong Man, I Confess, and Strangers on a Train. In Vertigo, scenes in a church bell tower or at a cemetery provide fitting backgrounds for a film about mortality and man's frustrated redemption through love. The church is a symbol of hope and redemption, but is also a reminder of death and decay. The film suggests that redemption is possible, but it is difficult and often comes at a high price. Hitchcock films often end with a sense of ambiguity. The audience is left to decide for themselves whether the characters have been redeemed or whether they are still mired in guilt. This ambiguity reflects Hitchcock's own belief that human beings are complex creatures who are capable of both good and evil. Although many Hitchcock films often concentrate on the loneliness and vulnerability of the individual, the vast majority additionally explore the dynamics of human relationships. Vertigo, North by Northwest, and To Catch a Thief are films that condemn their heroes to moments of isolation, insisting on their confrontation with an ultimately inescapable inner solitude. Hitchcock's male characters are often damaged, rootless, ill at ease with the demands of a changing world. To stress even further the identification between the screen heroes and their tormented creator, Hitchcock often turns his male characters into voyeurs. Women, by contrast, for all their trials as the objects of male victimization or outright mental or physical torture, often take the initiative, displaying greater self-confidence and determination. Known as the master of suspense, he became as well known as any of his actors thanks to his many interviews, his cameo roles in most of his films, and his television show Alfred Hitchcock Presents. His films garnered 46 Academy Award nominations, including 6 wins, although he never won the award for Best Director, despite 5 nominations. Hitchcock's work has become a source of reference for countless filmmakers everywhere. His films continue to be at the centre of critical and theoretical debate in books and articles on film written all over the world, and the regular showing of his films has ensured their popularity with successive generations of film enthusiasts everywhere. Alfred Hitchcock truly was a history maker.